you that as soon as the AU Special Envoy for Infrastructure and Development, that is Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, is ready to address the gathering at the 42nd General Council session of the Organization of Africa Union Trade Unions Unity, is ready to address the gathering. We'll be taking you there, and he's already ready. So let's cross over and listen in to what he is saying.
And trade are the key new drivers of economic growth as envisioned in the Africa Vision 2063 agenda that we are all committed to. That commitment is seen in the recent formation of the African Continental Free Trade Area and the new focus on intra-African trade. The economic takeoff we envisage will, however, not be realized without adequate attention to our workers and the work environment. It must therefore create more impetus for a deeper look into our world of work and the plight of our workers. That means our workers will need an ever stronger and louder voice in the coming decades. It means labor leaders will have to consistently remain on the front lines of championing the interests and the concerns of workers and ensure they live and work in dignity. The challenges ahead call for a greater collaboration between Africa's labor movement and our governments to address a number of issues. Our countries need to standardize the rules governing the movement of workers, including issuance of work permits and treatment of migrant workers, to avoid developments like those recently witnessed on the continent. We need to make it easier for our skilled workers to work in and for Africa. Today, partly because of low pay, but also because of unclear rules governing acquisition of work permits, a number of our skilled workers find it easier to find work in the Western world and only come back home to retire if ever they return. We must reverse this trend. Standardization of rules will also have to include reforms that help African trade more with itself so that we don't have to keep looking overseas for trade and skilled labor. Intra-African trade stands today at 15%. Inter-European trade stands at 70%. Inter-Asian trade stands at 50%. That means that Africa trades more with the external world than with itself. And this is what we want to reverse. It is a challenge that our labor leaders must consistently tackle by working in close consultations with our governments. When we trade more, we create work for our people. Labor movements will also have to work with governments to ensure a speedy modernization of our customs and border crossings to make it easier for us to trade with each other, for workers to move from country to country, and for investors to set up shop and provide jobs. Clear rules of engagement will enable us to see each other as partners rather than competitors in the grand plan to make Africa great and competitive. Often, the unfortunate happenings of struggling Africans turning against fellow struggling Africans are never government policies. Such happenings result from frustration with the inadequacy of our economies and the smallness of the ugali. But, ladies and gentlemen, it is very disturbing that you can see fellow Africans burning businesses belonging to same fellow Africans, killing fellow Africans because they are alien to their own countries. Where this conference is taking place, this hotel, down there's a thorn tree restaurant. That thorn tree restaurant used to be known as the South African Corner. That is where the South African exiles used to meet, in that place. It is therefore very disturbing that today South Africans would be killing fellow Africans who have gone there. People who have been liberated from apartheid with the efforts of all Africa. This is completely unacceptable. It is a shame on Africa that this should be happening on our continent. And therefore we've urged our fellow the leaders in South Africa to rise up and wake up and walk the talk. It is not only enough to condemn such acts, but very decisive action must be taken to ensure that there's no repeat of those kind of acts. It's shameful. We condemn racial discrimination in the United States. When fellow black people are being lynched for no other reason other than that they are black. Yet you can see this discrimination of black on black is just as appalling as white on black or yellow or blue and red on black. We want to change Africa, and I'm talking here as a Pan-Africanist and an Afro-optimist. Afro-optimist as opposed to Afro-pessimists. Afro-pessimists are those who have given up on Africa. Those who say that Africa is a lost continent, that Africa cannot make it. Afro-optimists are those who believe in the power of the African people to develop Africa. And it is possible it can be done. And that's why the OATUU has come up with the Africa Vision 2063, which is aimed at transforming Africa completely and making this continent an African continent. To do this, you have said that we need to open Africa. The African Free Trade Agreement has been signed now by all the 54 states. But how does Africa trade with itself without infrastructure? I'll give an example of a country called Central African Republic. It is just a stone's throw away from Kenya. Only South Sudan is between Kenya and the Central African Republic. But how does Kenya get its goods to Bangui, the capital of Central African Republic? There's no infrastructure. So you have to put it in a ship in Mombasa to go around the Cape, then along the West African coast to Cameroonian port of Douala, then by truck again all the way to Bangui. The French are there before you. And that's why in Bangui they drink Kenyan coffee, they drink Kenyan tea, christened as English breakfast tea. So we need to transform Africa, and the African Union has come up with several infrastructure projects. The highways, the railway lines, the high-speed railway lines, the free air transport, as well as water navigation and fiber optic connection across the continent. The Trans-African highways, one from the Cape to Cairo, another one from Tripoli to the Cape, another one is from Dakar in Senegal through N'Djamena in Chad to Djibouti, both highway and rail. Dakar to Lagos, and Lagos to Mombasa. Then we have got the high-speed railway lines, one from Beira across southern Africa to the port of Walvis Bay in Namibia, and another one to Huambo in Angola. The other one is called the Trans-African Beltway, from the port of Lamu in Kenya, through Juba, South Sudan, through Bangui, Central African Republic, to Cameroonian port of Kribi, opening up the interior of Africa and connecting all the landlocked countries within the interior of Africa. That is now Chad, Uganda, the DRC, the Republic of Congo, the Gabon, and also connected to Nigeria, so that it is possible for goods to move across the continent. So that the goods coming from the East, from China, from Japan, from India, from Singapore, it will come to the port of Lamu. And then from Lamu, you transport them by rail across the continent, dropping them as you move across. The goods coming from the West, from the Americas, from Europe, will go to the port in Douala, and then will be brought across this way. This way will open up the interior of Africa to trade. Then there's also a plan, there's also a railway line that moves along the capital cities on the West African coast, from Lagos all the way up to Cairo. Then we have also fiber optic network that will be connecting also African countries to make it easier also for ICT communication. Then we have got the open airspace, and that's what we call the Yamoussoukro Declaration, which we want to be implemented, which will make it easier for air transport in the continent. As we stand today, there's a lot of impediments in air transport in the country. You need to get clearances from all the air control services across the continent if you want to travel. And this makes the air transport very expensive, because all the permits that are being demanded from the airlines is all loaded on the airfares of the people. And that's why it is cheaper to fly in Europe than to fly in Africa. Europe has got one European air control. In Africa, you want to fly from Kenya to Nigeria, you have to get clearance from Ugandan air control, from DRC, from Central African Republic, from Republic of Congo, from Cameroon, and then Nigeria. That is the kind of bureaucracy that we want to remove, so that we have one continental Africa air control. The other one we're talking about is the waterways transport. Navigation system along the Congo River and also along the Nile River. And we want to make Nile navigable right from Mediterranean into Lake Victoria, so that some ships do not have to go along Suez Canal, around the Horn, to come to the eastern African coast. They can travel all the way from the Mediterranean through Cairo, through Khartoum, through Juba, into Lake Victoria, into Port Bell in Uganda, and into Kisumu in Kenya, and into Mwanza in Tanzania. These are some of the plans that we have as African Union. We also are looking at energy. Africa is energy deficient. Many countries in the continent have to pay a lot of money on energy, which is making them a very unattractive investment destinations. Some countries, a unit of electricity is costing $35 US. How can such a country compete with a country where it is $4 cents instead of 35 cents? Right now in Kenya, it is 13 to 14 cents per unit, when in some other places it is 4 cents per unit. We are looking at areas where we can get clean and cheap energy. One of them is in the DRC Congo. It's called the Inga Dam, the Great Inga, with a potential of 110,000 megawatts. We are working towards developing Inga as a continental project so that countries can sign in and can be able to buy energy from that source. This will enable Africa to add value to its immense resources, natural resources. Africa is the richest continent on earth in terms of mineral resources. It's a paradox that the richest continent in resources is also the poorest in terms of living conditions of its people. This is what we want to transform, this paradox, to make our wealth work for our people. What we want to do now is to add value to the enormous resources that is available on our continent. That instead of exporting iron ore, we'll be exporting steel. Instead of exporting copper ore, we'll be importing copper cables. Instead of exporting bauxite, we'll be importing aluminum channels. In terms of exporting sand and calcium and so on, we'll be exporting glass. This can be done. And this is what will add value, and this is what will help to make Africa work for its own people. Africa is the youngest continent by statistics. 70% of the African population is below the age of 35. Europe and Asia are now aging societies. Now, the youth can be a blessing or a curse, depending on how you use it. If the youth are not empowered, if they're not given, trained properly, given skills, they'll become delinquents, drug addicts, criminals, and a drag on society. But if they're properly trained and empowered with proper skills, like they've done in China and India, then they become a force for social transformation, for wealth creation. And this is another thing that we must do in our country. China has become one of the most attractive investment destinations when they liberalized, because there was highly skilled labor force and cheap, which the industrial Europe was requiring. So today you go to China, you'll find Mercedes there. You'll find BMW there. You'll find Ford. You'll find Volkswagen. You'll find Peugeot. You'll find Toyota. You'll find Nissan, Samsung, and all these other companies are there in China. Why? Because labor is skilled, but it's also cheap. This is another issue that the trade unionists must also address, that you don't price yourself out of business. Other times, not looking at what is the cost of our labor in relation to other countries so that you don't scare away investors. It's a very important aspect that trade unions must look at. Now China has moved on. Today you go to Germany, they'll tell you it is cheaper to import a Mercedes-Benz manufactured in China, transported by ship to Germany, is cheaper than the one made in Stuttgart in Germany. This is how Africa needs to look at it. This direction that we need to go as African people. Then we will be able to liberate Africa. Then we will be able to live to the ideals of the founding fathers of African independence, Sachi Kwame Nkrumah, Modibo Keita, Ahmed Sekou Touré, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, Jomo Kenyatta, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Nelson Mandela, and so on, that Africa is great. And I want to conclude by telling you a story of the African lion. The African lion is talking to the Asian tiger. And the African lion is telling the Asian tiger that I'm the African lion. I have been asleep in the jungles of Africa, but now I'm awake. You have danced alone on the stage for far too long. The European bear retreated to the poles long time ago. The American panther is also on the retreat. But now I'm awake as an African lion. I have been sleeping in the forest of the Congo. And here, bounded by the mighty Congo River, the river Nile, mighty Nile, the river Niger, the river Gambia, the river Limpopo, and great mountains, the Atlas Mountains to the northwest, Mount Kilimanjaro to the east, and I'm sitting on the African oil, African diamonds, African iron ore, African bauxite, African molybdenum, African copper ores, and so on. And now I'm determined to transform all this wealth into prosperity for my people of Africa. And I will do it and claim the 21st century as truly an African century. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Now that is the AU Special Envoy for Infrastructure and Development, Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga. His speech during the 42nd General Session of the Organization of Africa Trade Unions Unity is centered around Agenda 2063. And basically this is a blueprint of transforming Africa into a global powerhouse within the next 50 years. So definitely an event that has formed part and parcel of our news diary right here at K24 TV. Now on your screens right now is a Twitter poll that is currently ongoing at K24 TV. And the question begs, do you support the fresh push for a referendum by Kenya governors through hashtag Ugatuzi initiative. And all you need to do is to engage us on hashtag K24 Daily Brief at Sam W. Njoroge. Kindly talk to us. Let us know what your thoughts are. Do you support the fresh push for a referendum by governors through the OATUU initiative? We consumed the details and content of this particular initiative by the Council of Governors, courtesy of a press briefing they had at Delta House yesterday at around 1 p.m. And already Kenyans went on Twitter to just express themselves in as far as what they think about this move is concerned. And right now, we are still inviting you to do that. Get to our Twitter poll question at K24 TV, hashtag K24 Daily Brief. Let us know what your thoughts are in as far as the OATUU initiative is concerned. All right? So let's take a break right now. We return with much more in just a moment.